So says the rumour. Right, mate. We are live on Facebook.
Great.
We go on Zoom. We've got plenty of people joining us, which is ace. Good evening, everybody. My name is Ollie Coburn. I'm the registrar at the British Association of Sport Rehabilitation. Very proud this evening to have one of our own joining us, David Roche. Dave's a BASRaT member over in Ireland. As well as having numerous roles with different sports teams, different athletes, Dave runs a really successful multidisciplinary clinic in Kilkenny. I think I'm right there, Anna. I'm not.
Yeah, you've got that right. Well done.
Yeah. So really successful clinic over in Kilkenny, and is going to chat to us about some of his experiences with athlete training camps, managing athletes, rehabbing athletes in that kind of environment. A little bit of housekeeping. If you hear any background noise from me, I apologise. I have a 6-month-old at home and she's only just gone to bed. There is a Q&A function tonight. So you should all have a Q&A button at the bottom of your screens, or if you're in the app, it'll be near the top, I think. If you have any questions, please post them in there and have a look at the other questions as well, because you can upvote them. We'll have some dedicated Q&A time at the end of the session, but I might also be able to jump in kind of mid-presentation with Dave and ask questions.
Perfect.
Which is ace. I don't want to take up too much of your time, Dave, so if you want to introduce yourself, let the folks know who you are, what you do, and then we'll get cracking with your presentation.
Yeah, for sure. So let me just firstly say thanks a million for having me, Ollie. It's obviously quite an honour to be recognised and asked to come on to one of these with such an esteemed association as BASRaT. I know you guys work incredibly hard over there in the UK. And, I mean, even when I moved home to Ireland, I was still very, very keen to stay as a member of your fine organisation. So I'm really, really happy that you guys have asked me onto this. So thanks a million. And let me just take this opportunity also to thank you for all the hard work during COVID as well. I know, like, been from chatting to you, it's been crazy busy, and you've been doing stuff. You let us all know what's happening and keeping our minds at ease when all our businesses, including our own here, were wondering what was going on and everything else. It just goes to show that, like, how there for us BASRaT are, regardless of the time frame and things. So thanks for that as well, Ollie.
Absolute pleasure.
So yeah. Good, no worries, my man. So listen, I'm David Roche. I'm obviously a very, very proud sports rehabber and multidisciplinary therapist here based in Ireland. I would have done my initial BSc in Salford, as we just said there, and a lot of good lads like you. You're a year ahead of me, and even though I'm a couple of years maybe older than you, but we won't say how many. Yes, Salford was great for me because it gave me lots of opportunities and lots of links to work in high-level sport, and something that definitely exposed me to that environment very, very early on with placements like with Sale Sharks, Metro Physio, etc. when I was over there. I was just saying to you offline as well there that even though I went on to do a Post Grad in sports and exercise, and then a master's in sports medicine, every single day I lean on my sports rehab degree. And yeah, granted, sports medicine is obviously a nice thing to have in the background. Sports rehab is something I really work on, whether I'm at home or abroad. But yeah, I moved home only 5 years ago now, I think it was, and our clinic has excelled, and we have a multidisciplinary team here with everything from massage therapists to obviously myself, sports medicine, to chartered physios, to other athletic therapists from, say, RT in Ireland, which are another brilliant organisation there in Ireland. But so we have a very, very multidisciplinary team, and we're growing the whole time. I'm again very lucky to work with numerous high-level athletes from all over the globe come to visit us here in Ireland as well. I suppose notably Anthony Watson, I'd be his performance coach and rehab specialist. I'd be Curtis Mitchell's obviously sports medicine and lead there. Working with Kerry O'Flaherty up in Northern Ireland. Young Kevin McGrath just started working with us recently. He's a former Olympic junior champion, European junior champion, Olympic. And then obviously we have numerous other types of athletes locally. I'm obviously working with the FAI as well. I've been most recently working with under 21s and 17s, which is amazing. And even though the 21s manager got promoted to the senior job, I'm still waiting on the call to go up with them. But that's to be fair, the way it works in Ireland, you kind of get in the door first, and you make your name, as it were, and then you just crack on to the next part. But that's obviously a phenomenal experience, and again, leaning mostly on my rehab side of things and tissue loading, etc. I felt like I seamlessly have moved into that there as well. So I know obviously I have vast experience in as well. Went on and done things like the EXO's performance specialist degree. I've done a diagnostic ultrasound degree with a diagnostic ultrasound machine here, which I'm only starting to use, if I'm honest with you. I still owe them maybe 200 hours of of practice, but it's still an exceptional thing to have in a clinic, and I'd like to think that other clinics might maybe follow our suit maybe just down the line. But tonight's webinar is something I'm really interested in, is injury screening and the ability to be able to ID injuries early, because people always say to me, Dave, how do you have all these results from people and reviews saying he's fixed me after 2 years of pain? It's usually because it's early goers that copped it, and a very, very thorough assessment then will kind of unshadow that kind of injury in that area for you. So tonight's webinar will cover things like, what a camp looks like, what a high performance camp looks like. I've been lucky to be on a few of those. I've been on 2017's junior and Olympic camp in Portugal. I was on the Olympic high altitude camp in France. And I was also on the New Balance / Northern Ireland senior team with Kieran McGee and Cara Flaherty again last January. Spain.
Steve Vernon, I believe, on that.
Yes, Steve-O.
Yes, I know Steve because he lives close to me.
No way, he's some boy. He is some boy, so he is, yeah. But very talented guy. He was a good runner himself, I think, wasn't he?
Yeah, he still is.
Yeah, don't tell Steve I said that now. And I'm trying to get him to Ireland. He'll be actually one of the pictures here. He's actually in one of my pictures here as well. And he might show up and think about it, but I'll chat to you about it later on. And that was obviously a brilliant time to go out there as well. But so yeah, no, look, we are going to look at things like injury screening, but not just injury screening, but injury screening on camp. Because I suppose it's very important to understand that a lot of these are elite athletes. They're not going on camp because they're injured. There's going to be there's ways and means around this, and I'll explain that in the webinar as well. Then we look at things like my go-to screening tools that I'll often use, and also my go-to functional screening tools that are non-insulting, that are able to get information from your athlete without damaging your athlete further on camp. And then we look slightly at pain scores and load monitoring, and then our roles as GSRs on high performance camps like that. So let's make it interactive if at all possible. However many people are online there, let's make it interactive. I'll be asking silly questions every so often. I'll try get my hands moving a bit as well. And anyone who's out there, feel free to screenshot, as long as it's not a picture of me, my eyes closed or mouth wide open, and tag us, and we'll share you back. You can catch some Roche Injury Clinic on Instagram or on Facebook, and we'll try to share your stuff back and maybe get some followers back. But who knows? Because at the end of the day, we're all GSRs and physios and sports massage and everything else. We do want to make sure that we're all, enjoying this and we're making the most of it. So actually, to start off, if people want to start putting into the message box what their background actually is, that'd be great. Give us a feel for it. So are you a GSR? Are you a massage therapist? Are you a physio? Sports medicine? What are you? That'd be great to start off.
Yeah, throw it in the chat, guys.
Great, yeah, brilliant. I'll just crack on, Ollie. Is that okay?
Yeah, go for it. Get the
great, man.
presentation shared.
So,
if you're joining us on Facebook as well, leave us a little note in the Facebook comments. Let us know where you're joining us from, what your background is.
Yeah, brilliant. That'd be great. So, great. So, excuse me. This is the high performance environment, and funnily enough, right, you'll see our Facebook and our Instagram there. This is something I'm actually going to get going on. I think I was saying to you, I'm going to try to get some sort of, I can't think of a cheesier name than the high performance environment, but we are going to start doing some webinars and some kind of online trainings, maybe even some mentorship towards the end of the year 2021. But yeah, so we'll start off. This is a really a webinar if you haven't got a cheesy quote. So no safety, no injury, no safety, no injury. And I can't claim that to my quote. It might be yours, Ollie, I don't know. But it's all in the writing there, isn't it? So we need to know about our safeties, we need to know our no injuries, and plenty of them. So really, high performance in camp, what is it? It's a lot of things, really. Like the vision of a high performance camp, realistically, for all associated, is to push athletic boundaries, and in doing so, inspire athletes to unlock their true potential. There's a lot of things going on camps. There always is lots of things. You have, multidisciplinary teams, you have world-class facilities, you have great weather, and you have a training map that's implemented by the coaches. You'd also have things like athlete monitoring, which we are likely involved with as well, and then athlete review meetings, which we are heavily involved in. If you're on a really, really good camp, you'll have some staff CPD involved as well, because it's a really great time to take that, and it's a really good time to put into practice what you've kind of learned, or what you're, not that you will test or you will be anybody, but you get a good chance to individualize programming with different athletes. But also what I've seen mainly is, and I would have seen that a lot in the 2017 high performance camp in Portugal, is the values, culture, and the training philosophy of some really high-level athletes being mixed with junior athletes. So we had a really good batch of junior athletes for Ireland, Athletics Ireland there in 2017, and then we had the likes of Michelle Finn, Sarah Tracy, and Cara Flaherty out with us as well. David McCarthy was there out with us as well. So the Olympic athletes were rubbing off on the junior athletes. It was a really, really good environment to be around. It was actually a really good one. One of my favourite camps, if I'm honest with you. But the mission, really, guys, is to create a high-performance training environment where success is inevitable. It's not just going to hopefully happen. It's inevitable. And that's why I suppose I've picked the high-performance logo for me as well for my webinars, Ollie. Please don't rib me too much offline. So, yeah, let's get interactive. Some camps will look like this. You know, this is up in France. This is Font Romand, up a high-altitude camp. This is I think this is summer, if memory serves me correct. I suppose my first question, guys, of the evening is this photoshopped or what? I'm not even sure if it's photoshopped. You know that?
That's Instagram filtered for sure.
Whoever thinks it's photoshopped, give me a thumbs up. But it's beautiful. I can see the track, and I think there's actually a footy goal in the background, Ollie, as well there. But it's a phenomenal place to work. And I remember going out in the mornings, and you go from where we're staying to the gym, look down to the right side, and there's clouds down below you. It's phenomenal up there, yeah. Some of them look like this. This is trackside, cheesy grin mode on. Yeah, my runners are whiter than my legs somehow. I don't know how that is, but this is Jenna Prandini. Jenna's an amazing runner. Going to be our American Puma athlete. And then Brandon Taplin, who's a bit of a prodigy, is there in the background picking a scab on his leg for some reason. I hope he didn't fall. I didn't notice he fell. That's poor physio work, etc. And very few of them will end like this. And I suppose this will be a bit of a theme as well, because what happens here is you'll see all the guys. It looks like they're actually bowing down or somewhat grateful for that we've done in the time. But no, this is just a really staged picture of the guys going through a stretch out with me. And that was on 2017 camp. So yeah. So what does our day look like? It's busy anyway. It's very, very busy. It's 7:30. You might have your pre-training assessment if needed, depending on the times of the camp. People might have knocks, niggles, or come onto the camp with just a bit of tightness, whatever. And it's important to kind of ID that in the morning. And then 8:15 is breakfast. And that's a really good time because it's fueling, isn't it? We're getting all our nutrients into us, and me included, for the day to keep busy with the busy schedule. Then at 9 a.m. your training session usually is a morning session. Whether it's recovery or whether it's tough or whether it's on the trails or on the track, there's always a morning session, which is a good time for us, because what happens then is we will have between 9 a.m. roughly and 11:30 to eat a bit of free time, maybe catch up with your notes, or even go for an explore one. Once or twice I went exploring and nearly got lost. And then 12 roughly to 1 p.m. is roughly your post-training assessment, which is when the athletes come back from the run or from the session, and you can kind of highlight what's going on or check in with the athletes that you may have seen in the morning. And then 1 p.m. again is lunch, and food is obviously quite prevalent on these camps because these are high performance athletes and they love to push their bodies. So lunch is always good fun. And then usually if the manager of the campus is a real stickler, you have 2 p.m. to 5:30 is clinic really, and that's everything from soft tissue release to needling and manipulations and some rehab stuff depending. I'd often bring a student with me, which is really lucky for them. I would have loved it. To go camp and do some of the tough hands-on work, but we all need to explore how the body feels and how it reacts to treatments, etc. So it's always a good opportunity for that, and it really makes students in my experience. And then in the evening we have a group evening workshop, which is definitely my favorite part of the day, which I lean heavily on sports rehab in that part of the day. So for example, if you're looking at a camp with athletes who may have that you actually the motor camps around that. Yeah, so I got a few testimonials. What does it mean to some of the athletes? I suppose you can see there yourself. It's quite an integral part of the camp. Physios and GSRs, massage therapists, etc. Again, we don't really get all the praise maybe we feel we should, but we are an integral part of the camp as well as the coaches, the athletes themselves. But of course, the camp is all about performance as well. I've said all that. So yeah, so basically your assessment baseline, really, this is what it's all about, isn't it? It's the health of the athlete, the diet of the athlete potentially, and then the training load of the athlete. And even though we probably don't have a massive impact on things like diet and training load, we coach, nutritionists will be on the diets, and the health is from your GPs, etc. And obviously we'll have some in stay there, but I'd like to think we touch on nearly all of them in a small way. So what is our role? Ultimately, our role is keeping their bodies on the track. So keeping the bodies on the hills, keeping the bodies on the trails. And that's what it's all about. It's IDing and understanding your athletes' bodies is what makes that happen. And an understanding of where they're at, where they want to be, and how to keep them there as well. what do we do? So there's lots of injury screening kits, isn't there? There's loads and loads and loads. Like, there's functional movement screening, there's Y tests, there's tuck jumps, there's drop jumps, there's apps now. Right, so a lot of that stuff I suppose we'll use clinically, but I just kind of highlight it there because just so all you guys know that those are available to us in the clinical environment. Again, as I said, I think I said to Ollie to start, on site, these athletes have come to the high performance camp. They're not really injured when they come onto the camp. We're just keeping them ticking over. So injury screening 101 for us is reports. Absolutely reports. I'd always like to get some reports from the coaches, just to make sure that we know where the athletes are, any previous injury, as we see below, because we all know, and science has proven that the biggest indicator of injury is previous injury, isn't it? So it's always really important to get that kind of feedback. It's good to know, even if you're not a good coach or whatever, it's good to know their training load and their goals as well, And when I mean goals, I mean they're not coming out to absolutely destroy themselves. They might have qualification for European Championship coming up, the Olympics, etc. You need to know what their goals are and try to maybe match them as far as helping them and moving it. The biggest thing to know, and this is where everyone struggles, I think, when we start, when we don't have experience, is the moving baseline, because it's going to be completely different, and we'll go into that a little bit further down. As far as day one, they'll kind of ease into the camp, pain scores can be quite low, mobility can be quite good, and the baseline absolutely moves. But as long as they're getting through their sessions, and these guys are used to pain, these guys are used to pushing their bodies and relaying that to you as well. Then your own reports. I think that's really important. I would have written up I still have documents, I think, from that camp, just on where the athlete was, where I found him, and obviously where I left them as well. And it's just good. It's just good practice to keep scores and stuff as well, even if they're light and even if they're just something to scan over in the evenings, etc. as well. The biggest thing I've learned from camps, I guess, is don't try to reinvent the wheel. A lot of these athletes are very, very good, and they have like Physio back home, etc. Again, you don't want to be reinventing the wheel as far as coming in and saying, well, this is what your physio said, but I think it's completely different. You want to be respectful, and you want to make sure that through all the information gathered in the above bullet points there, that we can actually come to a safe, assessment and a safe implementation of treatment for the athlete. I always exercise perspective, and if that means just taking a step back, absolutely. I try not to get lost, whether it's in clinic here or whether it's, track side, pitch side, whatever it is. And I suppose with runners, I guess it's very, very important to look at. I'd often use run economy, I suppose, as a basis, because there's so many different, variables in run economy. It's like biomechanics, or the environment where you are, the training load, the physiology, all these things, for example. But I think we can kind of touch on a lot of these. And in my experience, what I've learned almost helped me greatly, because I know what it's like to go down, to a clinic in the morning. I know what it's like to go to a track in the afternoon, or I know what it's like to, go on a camp and think, how the hell am I going to help these people? I know my stuff, but I'm not really sure of how I'm going to implement it. If you take a bit of perspective and look at all these little things here, and how can I make small changes to these little things for a maximal effort or a maximal result at the end? And if we look at things like the training, if we understand the training load that you mentioned, that'll do as well. We'll understand the environment because we're going to be there as far as altitude or warm weather is concerned. Physiology itself, how physiology is, and we'll talk about it a bit further down about how we'll gauge that. Mechanics as well, the mechanics of the athlete and how the mechanics may change. And again, I suppose it's important to say that in the mornings that we have free time, sometimes I'll try and get on a bike and go out and watch them and go with them on the runs and stuff as well. They're all really important to kind of grab a touch of all those run economies. Let's explore run economy. Is everybody familiar with run economy, by the way? Does everybody understand, or has everybody heard about this before? It's not that it's controversial, but it's important to kind of maybe have a small understanding of all this as well. What are the three main things that we can actually influence, and how can we influence them, and what's the end result for influencing them? I think personally, my understanding, my education, and my studies has said that biomechanical efficiency is important, neuromuscular efficiency is important, and obviously physiological is important as well. And let's see how we can, how we'll influence a small bit of all those to make it bigger. Look at biomechanical efficiency. I suppose it's, like I said a moment ago, the athletes, look at that posture. This is good posture here. The athletes are usually quite good at running if they're on a running camp, right? But they can change. If they become tight, they may have that 1 or 2% or degree, I should say, a forward lean, which at the end of the day, if they take 10,000 steps or in a run or whatever it is, that could be 10,000 insults to the tissue, and you have to understand that. Mobility, if mobility is lacking in the, in the ankle joint, for example, the third lever, very strong lever. If you're lacking 2 degrees in that joint, that's a powerful joint to lose 2 degrees in. How much you lose, of course, for a run. So biomechanical stuff like that will be massively important. Well, I'll show you how you're going to link those in a moment. But again, everything from upper body to lower body, it's really important to make sure that we understand biomechanical efficiency. You haven't got to be biomechanist to actually get the best from your athlete in that respect. How can we influence this? I suppose there's a lot of things you can do, guys. There really is. These are just a few. If you think I've lost any or forgotten any, please feel free to stick them into the group there. Again, the chat as well, please. There's no wrong answers, obviously, so don't be shy. Yeah, knee to walls are obviously easy. Extension flexion of the knee is quite easy. Double leg dropouts, and talk about the internal rotation prone version. Thomas test is quite good actually I think Thomas test is quite interesting because if you look at say your double leg dropout, your sideline rotation comes from hip lower back. If you use the Thomas test, if you think about insertion and the origin of the Thomas test, what we're looking at there, I guess, is the back link to the front, the hip flexor, and all the way down the chain. Posterior and anterior slings / scapular rhythm is quite important as well. That people are quite interested in that when they hear about them and the influence that role that they have in running. Sitting rotation again, sit and reach is obviously quite good. Pigeon stretches, sleeper stretches, shoulders with overhead. There's a load of them go on all day. But again, this isn't a typical clinical situation. This is
probably worth noting as well that you could apply a lot of these across any athlete that involves running. It's not universal to a run training camp. It could be football, soccer, whatever you want to call it. Anything that involves running and moving, you've got applicable tests there.
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah. I thought I lost you there for a minute, mate.
No, I've turned my video off because I'm sort of my head's spinning with the questions and messages and stuff. So
please excuse me. No.
Watching me try and read stuff.
No problem, my good friend. So then the next thing we're looking at is neuromuscular efficiency, and here you'll see Curtis Mitchell, who's at the clinic recently for a 1-month camp, with fellas going through an overhead, dumbbell press. Do not be fooled. That pink dumbbell is very, very heavy. The other one in front of him is actually a lot heavier too. But in this picture I explained there on, we're trying to get him into a functional position, trying to figure out how his body adapts to load and how his body adapts to a different taxation via weight transfer as well. So how do we influence this? Test and document again, as I said, but I often like to use, guys, things like, single leg balance. Single leg balance, eyes closed. Single leg balance, eyes closed with a mathematical task. It depends, I like to get the brain thinking, use the opposite side of the brain, depending on the guy who comes in. So, for example, in the mathematical test, if I have a teacher coming in who teaches math or a professor who teaches math, I'm probably going to give him something different than mathematical tasks. So things like I'll ask him, for example, to say his daughter's name in Irish. I'll ask him to name different counties in England, Ireland, wherever he wants to be or where he's coming from. And we have things like squat with transfer of weight, and then lunge with distribution of weight, also distribute weight as well, which we would have seen Curtis do in the previous slide. Again, I'll explain a little bit in a while why I would use those and how these are integrated. But I suppose what you probably want to know is that's all well and good together. What are they together, and why would I do these things together on a camp where you have to understand on the camp the training load is exceptionally high, the motivation is exceptionally high. I need to make influence on these athletes if I can in a short period of time and not overload them as well. So it's just, if we put it into perspective as far as biomechanics and neuromuscular acuity is concerned, high performance influence for us really is if I can now marry both improved biomech via tissue release and mobilizations, and in turn with a higher understanding of proprioception, why should I say, with simple exercise that doesn't increase the load, they're already packed weak, absolutely made them a more efficient athlete and more than likely reduced injury risk. I would have read a lot of stuff with Ferris and Friedman, some of those studies there around 2001 as well, which kind of lend credence to that as well. So if you think about for a second what we do there, we're increasing the biomechanics, taking the pressure off their mechanics so they run a bit better. Obviously, if we can go along and teach them to be a bit more efficient as far as IDing what muscles are long and weak, what muscles are short and overactive, we'll take away that extra adduction or abduction to a joint, have them moving in a right plane of motion that they need for that muscle/joint. In that respect, then, if they can fire the right muscles correctly through that time, we have definitely made a more efficient athlete minimally. Again, there's 1%, and we talk about insult and indigo insult tissues over 10,000 steps. If we can do that over 10,000 steps, matters. How much better we make, people may not actually realize that you've done your job, and that's really all that matters. And then we have physiological efficiency. That's something that's absolutely more in line for a physiologist. But sometimes guys on these camps, you could be doing a little bit of stuff too. But how can we aid? We can aid by things like the RP scale. We can aid by lactate tests. They're quite easy to do these days. Hydration tests, etc. Wellness scores. You'd be surprised, guys. These guys will have apps and stuff. They're really tuned in. It's really, really good stuff out there on apps as well. One of the apps I just released actually has it as well. And then we as therapists can absolutely buffer weight via massage, trigger point treatments, dry needlings, and manipulations. So already now, even without any background in biomechanics, any background in physiology, any background in neuromuscular efficiency, we can already make an influence on tissue for sure. No two ways about it. How do they all move together? That's probably what I'm most interested in. High performance environment again. If we're moving poorly and we have an imbalanced neuromuscular pattern, we will then elicit a more stress response on our physiological system. I'm not just talking, how we move. I'm talking about stress hormones. I'm talking about inflammation hormones. And it's very, very difficult to perform well when your body's in a state of inflammation. It really, really is. In turn, requiring more energy, and therefore potentially leaking energy with every single stride they take. Let's not be fooled. Over the course of the week, there's going to be a lot of strides taken. But again, if we use the word marry again, if we can marry an efficient neuromuscular system and balance, biomechanics, I should say, with the elite athlete's physiology, it in turn will lead to higher performance levels, which in turn is what the camp is all about. Again, alongside your coaches and nutritionists, etc., and the athletes, you are contributing to the high performance camp in that respect. Very, very simply, very much at all in that respect. And this is quite a cool little piece of quote I've as well. The interaction between the neural and muscular systems, i.e. the neuromuscular system, is a fundamental to all movement and effectively translates to cardiovascular capacity in movement, and therefore into performance. I find that quickly quite interesting. Led me down a few rabbit holes once or twice. Absolutely, 100%. I'm a firm believer that one of our best weapons is education. Because yes, every high-level athlete wants to know about their bodies, how to ID injury. In actual fact, a lot of them actually, when you come across them, are actually really, really good. They've done background courses in strength conditioning. They've done, I think Marcus Lawler here in Ireland is an exceptionally young sprinter. He's actually an SSC, I think he's a master's in strength conditioning. I'm thinking, I'll go and tell Marcus about everything else and see what his response is to you. But yeah, I know Kerry's actually a sports therapist and has a BSc in sports science. Kerry's on the screen there. But they want to know about their injury because ultimately, it's their bread and butter. If the athlete is a high-performance athlete and they're sponsored by, I think ASICS is who Kerry's sponsored by, or Puma or Nike or Adidas, whoever they are, that's how they make their money. They make their money through sponsorships and appearance fees, and millions are just a kicker for the competitor, isn't it really? And that obviously leads to on the line. But yeah, and maybe then if you're looking at countries maybe like Ireland, some of our athletes aren't full-time athletes. They're semi-pro, for example, the teachers, etc. They kind of need to know what's going on with their body, and they need to know quickly. But to educate them, guys, you must educate yourself first. There's no point in going along and rote learning things, understanding things. There's a lot, I think, at the moment of rote learning going on, and it's very difficult to follow rote learning because you miss one step, you're gone. But hopefully this is becoming a bit follow and read. But absolutely educate yourself.
Do you make time on camp, Dave, to do kind of mini educational sessions with athletes and around not necessarily specific injuries, but things like recovery and hydration, nutrition, etc.?
Yeah, I do try to, Ollie. Again, nutrition is, for me, I don't know, nutrition is a bit lost to me, but I do have a couple of nutrition books at home, but I definitely don't know enough to be, influencing. And I love when someone comes on camp who I haven't seen before. Like, I think I was at a camp before with Jessie Barr, who is a sports psychologist. And I kind of just picked her brain for the whole day, as it were. That's how she came out to the camp. But stuff that I'm no good at, I'm really honest with myself. I know where I'm not good. I'll just meet myself in a mini conversation and tell myself, and I will actually actively seek out that. And then alongside that, Ollie, I'll bring on books. I'll always bring a book to camp, like your Bruckner's and Kahn, for example, or by David Joyce, Franz Bosch. These type guys are excellent. I'm sure you've read some of that yourself. What are my on-site go-to tests, I guess? So, again, it's the inert interior double leg dropout I'll use on what's the prone version, shall we say again. Sideline rotation I love, because sideline rotation gives athletes, if you ever know sideline rotations for the lumbar spine, when we have our athletes pushing their shoulder back to the bed, but you see how far the knee comes off the bed, and they get a little bit creeped out, they're not as flexible as they thought. They may get a cramping behind their shoulder blade. They might give them a bit of a kick in the backside in that respect. Again, I do quite like the Thomas test for things that are relating from back to hip flexor issues as well, or to rule them out, I should say. Co-contraction in the knee, the bridge variation for me is obviously really, really good, and how we can put pressure to different parts of the foot. Elicit a response if you have, like, you say, for example, is my glute firing too quickly or not enough, or it's my calves overactive, all this kind of stuff, Ankle mobility, again, I really believe strongly in how strongly of a lever the ankle joint is. I'll always look to mobilize that area. And in turn, the big toe, I forget the big toe seems to be forgotten about sometimes, but kind of left to the podiatrist maybe a little bit to work on, but I think it's hugely important to look up conditions around the big toe, absolutely look up conditions around the big toe, and look up conditions around the ankle joint as well. And definitely one thing we kind of forget, with scapular movement and sling, for example, a lot of our speed, I think I read somewhere before, 30% of our speed, etc., the upper chain, which is a really important stat, isn't it, if you think about speed and running. So what are my go-to functional tests? So non-insulting. So yeah, again, I do really like the hop complex and different variations of hop complex. Now, we're not going to be hopping for distance and time and everything else, but how someone accepts load pre and post fatigue for me gives me a lot of good information. How someone will hop, or how land, pre-post treatment or neural activation. Say, for example, if I was going to do something along the lines of, I could go along and do a hop test, I could go along and do some single leg balance tests with tasks, I could go along and then I would actually retest hop, and then I might come back from hop, go into load distribution in my squat, and I could do a load distribution in my lunge, and then go back to my hop. Just exactly, how much they've learned, how much I've overloaded the CNS to make sure that they are actually getting something from that. And then I can actually absolutely make an assessment from there. I can problem solve, and I say it a lot in the clinic here to my staff, who I do mentorships with my staff. Problem solving is the big thing, and that really is problem solving 101. And I'm saying to you, that'll become up on my future webinars as well. But what can I learn and safely implement? Almost what I just said, isn't it? It's about not taxing the people. They have a massive workload that week. And I can gain so much information, like we mentioned in the previous slides, from this. And then especially if I can go along and treat them, show them where they're weak, treat them, and show them now that they're not as weak, or they're improved in the matter of 30, 40 minutes. So imagine what they can do with 3-4 hours of rehab a week for me. And that, trust me, when you start mentioning things like performance levels and this type of stuff, non-taxing, they're up for it, no problem whatsoever. And then I was very lucky to work with Steve Mack. Steve Macklin would have been on the first, I think he was the head of high performance for Ireland at that point. Does anybody know what Aspire is? If everyone knows what Aspire is in Qatar, tip it into if you don't, look them up. It's where Bayern Munich and Liverpool and all these really, really good teams. Who do I support, do you reckon? I know anyone gets a like in sport as well, actually. All the good teams go out to Qatar, and they spend a bit of time out there in the Aspire facilities. Phenomenal. But Steve is now the head of high performance out there, endurance, and this is just what he thinks about having us on site and stuff through on his camps. Excuse me. So what are the common running injuries? Yeah, so this is just a little slide I saw, which is very, very vague. Muscle pull, for example, extremely vague. Knee injury, yeah, absolutely. But when you go along to document stuff, they'll probably fall under this, and then there'll be subsections, etc. And not forgetting, obviously, calf issues, hamstring issues, hip flexor issues, lower back pain, iliopsoas issues. I've underlined, ligament stress, because ligament stress brings us quite back to our running economy, doesn't it? Because ligament stress, obviously, as you know, is massively linked to proprioception. And proprioception, I suppose, again, here as I mentioned, is an exercise progressed in terms of skill and complexity, CNS overload potentially, rather than pure overload. Again, more bang for your buck with the minimum amount of taxation on your athlete. Now, articular ligaments, you see from Leppard, provide important neurological feedback that directly regulates muscular reflex stabilization around the joint. Now, that's really important for many people. Should we run through pain? Obviously, a warning sign something is wrong. May not have gone wrong yet, but it's wrong. And no pain, no gain thing kind of gets me, I'll be honest with you. I prefer to use the term, you have to break a few eggs to make a cake when I'm going to maybe physically assault one of my patients. But yeah, it just maybe gives me a better understanding. I always say to them, you don't if you stick your hand in the fire and it's hot and sore, you don't stick it in further, you take it back out. But if you break some eggs, you can make a cake, can't we? So, brilliant. What does the science say about pain? There is a lot of emerging evidence, obviously, and there's lots of changes a lot, I find, as well. But some of the most recent stuff I found, I suppose, is all about, NSAIDs and paracetamol and what they're, on COX, what they're I suppose what they do to that, I suppose, as well. And how they're affecting how we train. Like, for example, let's see here, what's it all mean? Ultimately, NSAIDs have reported to interfere with muscle hypertrophy and strength gains in response to chronic resistance training in young individuals. But what's that tell us? It probably tells us that in certain phases, it's probably okay. If you're just literally 2 weeks away from, when you're on a taper, you're on some high skill level stuff or whatever, if you're on a taper, you're probably okay, maybe potentially, as long as it's not a banned substance to take, NSAIDs, etc., or whatever's not on the list. But if you're in the middle of a hypertrophy phase or a strength phase, maybe I wouldn't be going too near the drugs in that respect, And for me, common sense has to prevail, doesn't it? Common sense must prevail. I always say to athletes, look, listen, if you're coming up and if you're starting your morning and you're stiff, a lot of them are going to be stiff. If you're starting the morning and there's pain is 1 out of 10, 1.5, 2 out of 10, and it ascends, but then descends, so you hit the 3, we're back to 2, you're probably okay to get on the session, and we'll reassess later on, we'll find out exactly what's going on, and then we'll expose you to different grades and we'll get you back to where you need to be. But if you're hitting like a 2, something 3, you're on at 4, and you still feel like it's ascending, that's probably a chance to head back to the physio, head back to look at your understanding of information, controlling information, get that down really quickly, and then we can make a thorough assessment to make sure we know exactly what's going on in that respect. Mark Power, I have a lot of time for Mark. He's actually from Kilkenny, would you believe, but he's in the States now. He obviously had a lot of high altitude. I think he's the captain of the underage Ryder Cup and stuff for Ireland, and I asked him for someone with GSRs, but he sent me that anyway. But we won't. We're taking a slap on the back anyway. But he's a good kid, and he obviously knows, and he's Under Armour athlete, but he obviously understands the importance of physios and camps that he goes to. And that's a rotational sport, it's not even a running sport. Load monitoring. I think load monitoring can be a bit lost on us at times as well. I definitely did, would leave it to the coaches, and I don't need to know about that. I'll find you where I find you, and that's it. But it is a delicate, balance between training and rest, a sweet spot. Or after, obviously, but it's to maximise performance, and it doesn't get a runner injury. I'll often say to my patients that come in and see me, when we talk about tissue loading in an injured athlete, shall we say, I'll often talk about, under stimulation of tissue, optimal stimulation of tissue, and then plastic region. And I'll often say to athletes, the reason that, to patients and athletes, that I need to get them as close to the plastic region as possible, potentially, depending on timelines, without pushing them over. But in running, that can be very difficult. If we're thinking about, the biomechanical stress in the body, if we're thinking about the physiological stress in the body and the neuromuscular stress in the body, it's quite difficult to gauge, isn't it? If you don't know what the HCWR is, you should really look it up. This is what it looks like. Gavin in 2016, a few people have kind of gone against it, but I think he's pretty on. I quite like it. I know he's done a couple versus uncoupled version now, where I think what they do is they take into consideration the training load that you're preparing for, and match it against the 3 previous weeks or the 3 weeks coming, and you just try to indicate where your injuries may lie, like a Mystic Meg type version. Again, there's a lot of variables with athletes, and something can happen to you in your life in that time. It's obviously, or anything, it's quite variable in that respect. So, but they are quite good. They are ways to keep people and let people understand that there is a sweet spot for us, and we are looking to hit that sweet spot at all times with our athletes. Again, as I said to you, it takes into account the current training. The guy in the background, obviously, I can see there, he's a Paralympian. He's an excellent guy from Northern Ireland. Not enjoying his session there that day, but I would actually encourage you guys to look into that. It's important that you understand training loads and what it means to the athletes as well, because you don't want to start having a chat with an athlete and starts talking about training load. You haven't a clue what training load is.
What tools are you using on camp to actually monitor that? Are you using technology? Are you going old school? How do you manage it?
Yeah, so a lot of times it's app-based. Again, they're kind of using this here. You'll see here, when we want to look at wellness scores, etc. A lot of it's app-based study as well. And a lot of them will have their coaches kind of stimulus and their input on how hard those sessions are. And some of them go old school. Some of them will have RPE scores. But it's important to notice here, as I can show on this slide with the asterisk, that as the camp goes on, RPE scores will go up through loading. But then again, it's in our job to keep the pain scores low. And I believe we're doing that 100%. But the problem then, Ollie, is that mental fatigue, as you can see by this study in 2017, absolutely kind of thwarts in a right angle shifts on the spectrum of pain as well. So how do we look after that? That is, again, looking after wellness scores, sleep pattern scores, mood scores, things like flu and cold symptoms, like let's not talk about COVID, obviously, but, cold sores, spots, and anything out of the ordinary, like, like diarrhea or more often going to the loo, all these, it's obviously quite, you have to know the athlete, obviously, before you're asking these questions, but you kind of say to them, and they're really upfront again about they want to get the most out of camp, for example, they're really upfront about these kind of things all, but it can be quite old school depending on the camp.
Have you got any, just to knock a question off that we've got there, so any particular apps that you'd recommend or ones that you've enjoyed using in the past for this sort of thing?
Now, Ali, I'm going to be honest, that's almost like you've set me up there, because we've just literally released an app with all of this on it. The app we've released is it's called Nutrition Pro Code. It's an app that brings you to 3 months of information/reset with your wellness scores. How do you feel? What's your stool like in the morning? What's your water like? What you've eaten? What you've rested? How your sleep was? It takes all this into account. Meditation, personal notes. You can text into the app. You can send in pictures into the app of your food or your ankle if you went over your ankle, etc. That's what I kind of use, and that's why, would you believe, Ali, off the back of this through COVID, I had time to write the app with the guys who we work with, and it's a really, really cool app. That's the one I use. I think that's an evolution of everything else that's going on at the moment. Different apps. I think Under Armour have quite a good one, I think, as well. But a lot of the watches they wear, Ollie. Have you seen some of the watches they're wearing these days?
Yeah, got one myself.
Because you're big into your run now, is that actually?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're really, really cool. Like, what does your app do? Sleep and your watch do sleep and stuff? Yeah.
Yeah, sleep, training load, stress, all of it. Yeah.
All the above. So if you can, and then again, if you are reading around this type of stuff, you can match what your watch says, what coach wants, is what their coach wants, and to what the athlete is relaying to you and what their body is relaying to you. That's a really good understanding of what's going on, 100%. And as I said to you, like, you do get some downtime, very little. But, the reason I was asked back in different camps and been very lucky to work with their athletes, because I would always go, I don't know, I'm intrigued and passionate about things I don't really know per se. And following that kind of stuff up and making sure you know the athlete. For example, when I spoke about biomechanics earlier on, you won't see the athlete running because they're out on the trails unless you get on a bike or go out to one of the trail running sessions and physically watch them like you're watching, standing in the field. You need to be very, and that's how you get your skills up. Like I mentioned a moment ago about bringing students with me to get their skills up as far as soft tissue is concerned. That's how I get my skills up. I get out there and watch them and look at how they move and look at a good movement pattern looks like. So if I see them running on Tuesday and they look beautiful, then I see them on Sunday or whatever it is, and a few days later, and they're a little bit laboured either from their calf or their hip, I can't even understand what's going on. I can show them nearly even before they show me, and then they'll completely buy into that then, Ali. And that's something yourself from private practice. When a patient buys into what you're doing, it's almost half that, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so, and then, again, just literally kind of answer that, but why is this important to us? It was quite simply, guys, we put out fires that no one will ever know about. And that's what I mentioned, that's what I meant at the start of the app, the presentation, when the kids were down doing the kind of praising me. Let's hope they never know injury, let's hope that they never come back and say to you, I've torn my hip flexor, etc. We're doing it right, we're putting out fires early doors, and that's a really good feeling as well. Keep an eye on for us, some thoughts about that, I guess, while the chronic and acute workload ratio and the above tests are all measures, it's always helpful to understand that there is no magic formula for injury prevention athletes. No one can actually predict, a tuft in the ground, or no one can predict, a car knocking somebody down, etc. Without being too morbid. You have to kind of take it as it is, and each individual will be absolutely different. They need to tailor it to their approach. You get quite good at that, I think. I think when someone walks into the room now, or beside the track, you kind of see them coming, and your mind almost switches into this kind of, okay, this is Dermot up next. I know what Dermot's problem is. I know what to relate to him. I know what his kid's name is. I know what, and it kind of rolls from there at times, isn't it? With time and practice, like I mentioned there, guys, because there's no chalkboard, there's no rote learning for this. You will find their sweet spots. You really, really will. I quite like this, and this leads on to a bit of this is what it's all about, really, isn't it? Super compensation. This is what it's all about. And there's no wrong answer here, right? So where do you think that we as GSRs and physios and sports massage therapists, sports medicine, etc., actually come into? What's our most important, time here? Do you reckon, guys? Pop that into the box there. Pop that into the chat.
The chat's off, mate.
What's it gone?
I'm getting loads of angry people having a go at me, saying, "Oh, I've turned the chat off."
Oh no.
I'll take an answer on behalf of the team. I'm going to put us firmly in the recovery zone.
Yes, that's yours. Well, a learned man like you, Ollie, I'm not surprised. Well done. Absolutely, absolutely. So we're looking at coaches will provide us training stimulus. The athletes' physiological stuff will obviously provide the fatigue. Absolutely. We will absolutely get them. I'd like to see that line of recovery a little bit more to the left. And then super compensation, then the coaches come involved again, obviously involution, etc. But ultimately what we're after. That's a bit blurry, sorry. This is what we're after, isn't it? This is what we're looking for. A camp is around between 7, 10, 14 days, and maybe a little bit plus than that. And that's what we're after. Super compensation, microcycle, super compensation, so on and so forth. Olympic medals, all that crack, all that good stuff. Liking kids at home, happy, etc., etc. But the high performance camp, guys, look, what it really boils down to is this, isn't it? If I straw up a little like this for us, it's all about performance. That's in the middle. Your workshops in the evening, you have to understand your athletes to get the workshops, make the workshop work. You understand the athletes and the training load, the biomechanical stuff from your injury assessments. The goals of the athlete are really, really important to understand what's going on. Your treatment selection, the load that both A, that they're doing, and B, that you will put into them, and then obviously the session types that they will go through. And make no mistake about it, absolutely not. And Ali said at the moment, what do I do on camp? It's also about you. Everything you can see there is about you, your performance. Like sometimes, if I'm honest with you, sometimes what I'll often do is I'll use key performance indicators on myself and figure out, how did I go today? Did I actually have a bad rapport with someone? Did I get that injury spot on? Did I help that person that the pain scores coming down? And then you can reflect at certain points of the camp. And that may sound a bit pedantic, but it's more about figuring out where it's not to ridicule myself. It's to actually figure out where I'm weak and where I need to get stronger, and then I'll actually go and do that with that attitude, with that idea. You won't go too far wrong, I think, guys. To be quite honest with you, but you know what, right? As I was saying, all that stuff really. I hope you enjoyed a lot of that stuff. All that stuff really, guys, is the tip of the iceberg. And I said to Ollie that, and thanks so much again for having me on. But I was saying that I have another webinar coming up in July, and this will probably get into a bit more about how I rehab these injuries once I get the information from the biomechanics and physiological stuff, how I problem solve common injuries, how I explain how I use my methods to get lasting results, not just great off the bed, 10 minutes there, the pain's back. Explain my safe and easy to implement rehab exercise that I've used that have taken years to actually accumulate, no more guesswork, and an easy to follow progressive protocol to bring your patients / athletes from a low level activity back to health and maybe even exceed their health goals. I just want to say thanks a million again. I've tried to wrap it up quick enough for y'all. Thanks a million. You know how I can talk. Thanks a million again for having me. I really enjoyed it. I hope everyone's leaving a little something from that.
Yeah, so we've got a little bit of Q&A. I mean, that was awesome. I'm going to kill 2 questions straight off the bat. Just
cool.
Repeat the name of the app that you mentioned, the one that you're working on.
Yeah, the app is just actually my one. It's actually called Nutrition Pro Coach. And the program I'm under is Return to Performance. It's where my skills as GSR sports medicine have been met with daily routine, starting back in phase 1, where you go from everything from mobility to flexibility, bringing it through to phase 2 with nutrition, obviously, and decreasing inflammation and perfecting your diet, into phase 2, where we start loading techniques again, everything from how to lunge properly, how to mountain climb properly, to perfecting your nutrition and actually having what we call metabolic flexibility, which allows you to have energy when you need it to perform. Because I know what it's like to have a long week in work and then be tired. It gives you the energy. And then the last phase of it, which is with phase 12, is back to performance, when we start to give you really tough sessions that may be a bit more specific to your needs, and they are, whatever sport you may want to go back to, or if you want to go walking with the lads or running or whatever it is. And I think there's a deal on now. I think it's like €129 for 3 months, which is outrageous. We've definitely over-delivered there. But hey, it is what it is. Nutrition Pro Coach. Awesome,
Nutrition Pro Coach. Awesome. Right, you'll know Danny. Danny's put a question in for us. Danny Barnes.
Yep.
Do you use any external modalities, or I'm assuming here that he's referring to treatment with the word modalities, but do you use any external modalities or equipment when screening and treating athletes in camp? Obviously, I guess you're limited on equipment you can take.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm quite lucky that I have a lot of, as you might know, I have a lot of links with people like Winback and CryoStim and who else do we use, Shockwave and stuff like that. So what they actually do for me, especially Winback, are really good to me. Winback will nearly always find what camp I'm on, send me out a piece of equipment to use on the camp. It's amazing, like it really is. And Winback is a closed circuit type treatment, which accelerates healing. I think some of the studies say up to 3 to 4 times what would usually be by a closed circuit type ultrasound current. phenomenal piece of kit, and they're lucky to send me out that stuff. So I will use that when I can on different injuries, etc., and will accelerate the healing response for athletes. As far I had often thought about bringing things like jump mats, etc. But to be fair, there's no real room for it. The stuff I've kind of mentioned there is almost enough, and then you'll find that some athletes may be sponsored by this and that, and they won't use this or that, and then they can get caught up on people wanting pictures and people want to share their rights, and say I don't really go too far into that, and you'll probably find that on a lot of my camps we don't do too much pictures of that,
Cool. Wesley Young, good question. He submitted ages ago, this one, so apologies, we're kind of jumping back a bit, but
no worries.
I know you mentioned using FMS as part of your screening, and we won't get into the pros and cons specifically of FMS, but Wesley's saying if you're familiar with SFMA as a screening tool or screening protocol, and is that too long to use on camp? Yeah, I'm not familiar with it, so I'm staying well out of the way of this one.
Yeah, I've definitely heard this stuff before, and the answer is yeah, absolutely, because athletes become, obviously we know what familiarization is, guys, and if you start bringing out this really fancy kit, and it can take, especially for FMS as well, when you have the guys balancing on the, the small, the grey measure, shall we say, if you start, assessing athletes, that kind of stuff on camp, and it's anyway taxing, what you kind of do is switch off, and you don't get true scores, I find, and you're not there. Again, a lot of these athletes have a head of athletics to go back to at camp in England and Ireland and Scotland and stuff like that, and Northern Ireland. So they don't want to tell us to reinvent the wheel and send it back to their main physios. Go, well, I did the FMS score on him and the FMSA, and then this is what this is saying. So I kind of steer away from it. I kind of put into a slide to say they are available to us. Unless I'm trying to prove a point, I won't really use that like that on site.
Well, questions are flying in now, mate, so we might go a little bit more quick fire with them, because I want to make sure we answer as many as possible, and they're nice and varied as well. So have you done any work with Paralympic athletes or disabled athletes at all?
Yeah, absolutely. Big Dog, you would have saw him dying him on the pictures in the back of them there, right? Who I call Big Dog. Anyway, he's Northern Irish Paralympian. He's an excellent, lovely guy. David Levy as well as a guy. They're both Northern Irish guys who won the last New Balance camp with me. They're excellent guys, yeah, and they're obviously different. I think Big Dog has a small bit of a foot issue, etc. We won't go too much into it, but it's obviously difficult. You have to look after them, third lever, etc. But there's different boundaries, and then it's just knowing the mechanics and knowing the athlete as well. Knowing the athlete is huge for Paralympians.
Awesome. I'm not going to respond too much to your answers, because I want to get through some of these.
Of course, buddy. Yeah.
I'm trying to group the questions as well. So, great question from Seamus. How do you compare working on the athletics camps to working with Football Ireland? Do you get enough time with the players on the football camps compared to the athletics ones?
Oh, not really. Loads and loads of guys, as you can imagine. And in the football, I think still, especially at the level where some guys are earning lots of money, some of them don't want to show injury. And that thing in football, I don't know what the story is with that. I still can't grasp that. But no, you don't get half enough time with footballer guys. The individualized athletes are sorry guys, they're quite intense, but it's brilliant because they respond to you really, really well as well. Completely polar opposites as far as rehab and applying themselves and everything else. Because I think footballers really quickly are I think they almost think they're invincible at times, and they don't need physio, and they don't need this, they don't need that until it's too late. I think unfortunately, endurance athletes and runners are precursing the injury, so yeah.
And a question linked to that, kind of from Craig, is what's your experience been of managing the egos of high performance athletes in camp?
I think you have to put down a marker early doors. I think I've made mistakes before, trying to be too nice to people. But I'm the kind of person, I'm always going to be nice to someone until they prove me wrong, sort of thing. But you know what? They can rock in with, my guy said this and my guy said that, but I'll tell them very, very quickly what the problem is. I'm known for being straight talking. You probably know me in that respect anyway. But I will, if they don't believe me, I'll bloody well show them. As far as the science that backs it up, how I can show. I mean, I was lucky to go up to UFC up in Dublin here, training camp. Paddy Houlihan, the hooligan brought me up there last Christmas. I had to walk into a room, Ollie, of 30 plus guys who would kick my ass and show them how weak they were in different areas. But we left, it was a great pictures on our Instagram. You'll find it if you want to find it. Me sweating in the background, with a distance away from the guys until it was all over. But we made good friends. But then they respect you after that. They absolutely respect you. They understand that you're not there for the ego. You're not there for the kudos. You're there to actually help them. And that's the thing.
Yeah, awesome. Career-related question. I'm going to lump these two together from Emily and from Keith. So, first of all, in terms of your progress as a GSR, do you feel that was enhanced by your masters? Did you need your masters in terms of progressing your career? And also, any tips on how to get into working in these kind of elite environments and camps and things like that?
Yeah, that's a really good question, isn't it? I think, as I kind of said to you off air, and being brutally honest with you, not just because of the format we're on tonight, and I would often say that I think, I lean heavily on my GSR stuff. I absolutely do. And the platform that has given me and the exposure I had to be working with the likes of yourself, I do call in the clinic, etc. Steve Atzma, all these guys, Julian Hacker, all these kind of guys, and Big GSP for over there in Aspire actually as well. It gave me a good platform to understand where the level was, that I'm not that good, I have someone to look up to, but it's given me a fire, for example. But I think my masters and stuff like that definitely got me into buildings. But I tell you guys, not messing, once you get into building, that's great. But there's so many levels and floors on this that you need to actually apply yourself. And every level you level up, you need to be really good at what you do and understand rotor learn, understand things, So yes, the masters gets those things for me, but GSR rehab thing, we know that stimulating tissue safely by experience and rehab protocols is the best way to get people better again. Sports medicine is brilliant for IDing things, but GSR and stuff like that. And as far as career advice goes, how to work in those environments, if I'm honest, what I did was I just kind of applied myself fervently to athletes, for example. What I used to do was, Monday to Friday would be patients on, general public patients, and Saturdays I would just knock out and I would just do I used to call it athlete day, and that was cool because any athlete who came and saw me thought, I'm down to David Roche's for athlete day, even though David Roche is working out of, a one-room place, genuinely a broken bed. It was athlete day, and then we molded that into bringing them outdoors and bringing them up to a wider area. Athlete day became a group athlete day, and now I'm very, very lucky to be a performance coach. People like Kerry O'Flaherty, people like Kevin McGrath, people like Anthony Watson, Curtis Mitchell, these kind of guys. So I'm very lucky, and that just spread out. So, but apply yourself and have the athlete's interest at heart. That's it.
Awesome. There is a couple more questions floating around in there, but we're struggling a little bit for time. So, if people want to follow up with you and get hold of you, where can they find you?
So what I'll probably do is I'll probably dedicate the rest of tonight almost to this kind of thing. I often do that when I do webinars or teaching. I'll just dedicate that day rather than doing it for 6 weeks. Sorry guys, I'd love to help you for 6 weeks, but I'll try to get you it all tonight if I can. But you can probably, I'm on Instagram. I'll be on Instagram later on tonight. And I'll probably do a Q&A on that there tonight, I think, as well. But our Instagram is Roche Injury Clinic, all one word, very easy find. So feel free to catch me there or on Facebook at Roche Injury Clinic. And I will do my very, very best to get back to all the questions there, and we'll keep it lighthearted, and we'll be
spot on. And like I said, we'll probably get that follow-up webinar on the go as well, so we'll let everyone know how they can join us for that. There's going to be the recording of tonight. If you want to find it on Facebook, it's gone out live on our Facebook page, so you can catch up on the recording there. Or in a couple of days' time, it'll be on our YouTube. So just search for BASRaT on YouTube, follow our channel, and the video will be there.
Yeah, so that's perfect, yeah.
Awesome. I'm going to wrap it up because we've both got kiddies to go to.
That's right.
So thanks once again, Dave, for joining us.
My pleasure, Ollie. Thanks for having me.
Really interesting insight into the world of high performance camps and how you're applying your skills and knowledge. So, and we're really looking forward to the next one.
Great. Thanks, Ollie. Appreciate it, man.
No worries.